Greetings, Earthlings. Planet Mitch, founder and chief astronomer over at PlanetFlyOD.com, where we bring you the best DSLR filmmaking news, information, and resources from our universe to yours. Well, exactly from your universe to you. I don't know. It's been a crazy day. I jumped into a conversation with a friend of mine and something that I thought was a tip that I wanted to pass on to you, and I don't have all of my fancy setup down here. The TV's not on. Didn't have any special slides, but I just thought I'd pass along this tip. I recently had my hard drive crash on my iMac upstairs, and I want you to know that you need to be doing backups. Of course, you do backups, right? In my case, I have several backups, so that wasn't a big deal. But the tip that I wanted to pass on was a couple of things. First, do backups. If you're not doing backups, you're crazy. Number two, if you do regular backups, there are several millions of ways of doing that, but a program called Carbon Copy Cloner is a friend of mine. I really like that program a lot. And it used to be free, and I think he's now charging $25 or $29 or something for Carbon Copy Cloner. But it's a great utility because it does physically copies everything from one drive to another. If you happen to have drive A that you like to back up to drive B, or maybe you cycle through a whole bunch of different drives, Carbon Copy Cloner will make sure that every single file that comes off of drive A is on drive B. They can be different sizes, of course. You have to have drive B be at least as big as drive A. Those kind of things are fairly logical. My friend asked me, well, the people at Apple said to use Time Machine. And Time Machine is great for situations where you need to be able to go back in time. Let's say, for example, you have revisions to a particular document that you want to be able to go back to. Maybe it's not a Pages document, because inside Pages now you get revisions that you can keep track of in Pages. But let's say you're working on a Final Cut Pro project and you want to be able to maybe go back to the way it was a week ago. If that's important to you, Time Machine's a great product for that. Highly recommend it. If you're not that kind of guy or gal, I'm kind of guy that I just want to know that I've got the latest thing on drive A backed up on drive B. And Carbon Copy Cloner is a great program for doing that because it'll do it automatically. You can set up a schedule. It says every day at whatever time you pick, copy everything from drive A to drive B. Now it goes through and makes sure that, it doesn't do every file every day. It's as if file hasn't been updated and it looks okay over on drive B, then I'm not going to do anything. But it checks all the revisions, just copies everything that needs to be copied over to drive B, and you don't have to think about it. It just does it. I do have other services. I'm using a service called Backblaze, which for $5 a month will upload stuff to the cloud. So that cloud services are great for doing that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more difficult if you need to get something back down. You have to create a zip file and do some stuff, and it's just a little bit more complicated than if you have that backup drive right there in front of you. You can just make sure that you have the files. The last thing in terms of backups that I really highly advise is that at least once a month, if you have stuff that you think is very important, take those files and back them up, number one, and take at least one of your backup copies off-site. A long time ago when I worked for Boeing, there were a group of people that was one master document in the company was kept on a computer, and they backed it up, and they were so thankful that they backed it up. But guess what? They backed it up onto a drive that was sitting right next to the computer. Over the weekend, the thieves came in, stole both the computer and the drive sitting there, and so the one master document was gone. Completely gone, because they didn't have an off-site backup. Even a month's worth of work they could have recovered if they did it once a month or once a week or whatever is appropriate for your particular situation. But make sure you're doing backups. Don't lose those favorite family photos. Back up your phone to your computer. Do all of those things, because eventually your hard drive is going to fail, and you don't want to be really screaming, pulling your hair out because you've lost photos. I do remember a young lady came to me several years ago begging for photos because I had taken photos up at the school. And she had lost 3 years worth of family photos because her drive crashed and she didn't have a backup. I don't know why people do this. You know things are going to fail, and if they're important files, documents, back them up and make sure that one copy somewhere is off campus. That's my advice. That's my tip for the day. Backups are very important. It's a pain in the butt to have to go do them, but somewhere along the road, that backup is going to save your fanny, and therefore you should do it today.